at all these drafts, man. I haven't done anything. B9. Well, I know. What is, and then look.
I'm waiting for a couple more board members to arrive. We do not have a quorum just yet.
Nora, I just saw that I think Melissa's trying to join. I don't know if BA has spotted her.
I only see 7 of us. Is my count correct?
Melissa was, she's trying to connect. 1 second.
There's a very real possibility we're not going to have quorum.
It happens.
Yeah. Okay, so it looks like there's 8 of us.
I'm counting 8.
Okay,
We
so
need
we
9,
still
right?
need Christy was supposed to join us and Melissa was supposed to join us.
I don't think Christy's coming because I asked her.
Oh, okay. We need Melissa. We need 9.
Should I text her? Anyone else?
I'm doing that right now.
I slacked her the link.
Okay, thank you. Let's wait just a couple more minutes, folks. Okay, it looks like Melissa is attempting to join us, and so just as soon as she arrives, we'll take a roll call.
Also, thank you, Nanette, for taking over my minutes.
my duties.
Okay. BA, do you see Melissa?
No, ma'am. Mm-mm.
Okay. Well,
Here she is.
oh, hi, Melissa. Okay, thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. It's beautiful in San Antonio. I hope it's beautiful where you are. We'll go ahead and start with a roll call. Filling in the secretary duties today is Nanette.
Hello, have patience, thank you. And roll for Yvette Cabrera,
Here,
Nanette Sosa, I'm here, Nora Lopez,
Here,
Julio Cesar Chavez,
Here.
Aralis Hernandez,
Here.
Johnny Cordova,
Here.
Blanca Rios,
Here.
Eleanor Vega,
Eleanor,
Yes,
Eleanor's
here,
not on-
sorry.
okay, do I just call board? Is that
Yes.
what- Okay. McNally Torres,
Aquí.
Yunen Bonaparte,
No, you know, it's not on the board.
entonces Melissa Makaya.
Present.
Okay, does that make our 9?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Okay, this meeting is called to order. Should we go ahead and approve, just
Why don't
lead
I-
directly?
Yeah,
Let's
what-
lead directly into the topic of conversation. So
Yeah.
I'm going to turn this over to Yvette Cabrera, who's our VP for online and also has been chairing our strategic plan. So Yvette, take it away.
yes, I just wanted to provide some background because I realized that not everyone was able to make our last board meeting earlier this month. So I'm going to repeat some of the points that I made there for those who are joining us. So what we are doing today is voting on the draft strategic plan. We haven't had a strategic plan since 2002, as Nora has pointed out. So it's been a while, but this board felt it was important to lay out a guide for not only this board, but the next board as to goals and priorities. So earlier in 2021, the board decided to have a retreat so that we could discuss what these priorities and goals were going to be. But before we did that, we organized a strategic planning committee. And that planning committee, which is comprised of myself, Nora Magnelli Torres, Christy Fajardo, Melissa Macaya, and Jessica Retis, started reaching out to stakeholders. And by stakeholders, I mean former NAHJ leaders, current NAHJ members, to get feedback as we were heading into the retreat. We hired a consulting company called La Piana Consulting to help us with this retreat, to walk through what we would want to include in this strategic plan. We decided that we wanted to hear back, give members who wanted to provide feedback for the plan a chance to fill out a survey. And so we did hear back from more than 60 members on that. And then we put together the initial drafts at the beginning of the year, and then went back to have stakeholder interviews to provide sort of like the top, an overview of those priorities as we set them out. And then we have been working towards creating finalizing this draft so that we can provide it to the staff so they can come up with an implementation plan so we can finalize the draft. So what the board did these last couple of weeks is look at that draft, make some final tweaks. This is not the final draft. This is the draft that the staff will work with to come up with an implementation plan. And that will include questions around how are we going to budget for this? How are we going to communicate this? And metrics. And so what we are voting today is on that draft. So I wanted to provide that background for anyone who did not hear that at our last board meeting a couple weeks ago. So we're really excited to be at this spot. It's been a lot of work. We've poured money into this. As many of you know, we paid this consulting firm $30,000. We got some Dow Jones money to cover a portion of that. So it ended up costing us about $15,000 to go through this process with their assistance. But it's exciting to be at this point. We're not at the end at all because we have to work through the summer to come up with the implementation plan. But our goal is to work on finalizing that and having a draft to share with our members before the conference, shortly before the conference. And the idea is that we will have at the membership meeting a chance for members to hear about these priorities, talk about these priorities, talk to the board, the current board, and understand more sort of where we're headed with this. So I'm gonna hand it back to Nora. I'm happy to provide more details if anyone has any questions from the board, but we do want to have a discussion about this.
Thank you, Yvette. You know, I may have been wrong. There may have been another strategic plan, maybe about 10 years ago, but we weren't able to find it. Somebody said that they thought that, I think maybe it was under Brandon's tenure that they did formulate something. But I think this is probably one of the most important, other than hiring the ED, this is probably the most important thing that this board is doing, which is really trying to see ahead into the future and what we want NAHJ to be and to grow into. So I really want to thank Yvette and all the members of the Strategic Plan Committee who have given so much of themselves over these last, 10 months or so, as we try to fine tune it, as we gather feedback, because I think for the next board coming in, it's going to be, you know, we set up the structure and now it's the next board who will be able to implement it and help take NAHJ into that next level. I think when our members finally see it, they're going to be surprised and I hope impressed by the plan and what we are trying to accomplish and the fact that we put it in a form that we hope will hold ourselves accountable to seeing this through. So board members, if you have any questions for Yvette based on what you've read or seen, now's the time to have a little bit more of discussion. Or Yvette, if you want to.
I can make a motion. Let me make a motion. Yes, so
No. I have a comment.
We can discuss during when we open up for discussion before the vote. We won't vote without discussion.
Okay.
okay, so I'm gonna make a motion to adopt this 2022 draft strategic plan so that the staff can create an implementation plan to create the final draft of the strategic plan.
I second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Now is there some discussion? McNally.
I wanted to for you guys to talk here more about this timeline because I'm a little concerned that we had only that survey, which remember the first roundup of responses was really abysmal. It was like about 20 people responded. And then we circulated around and push it again. I know I asked a lot of people in my circle to please fill it out that there are members. So we only end up having like about between 60 and 75 people. That's 1% of our membership, folks. So that's the only part that I really would like, you know, for us to think about, you know, before voting on this. How are we going to have like a public forums before the conference and the membership meeting so people really see this draft before? You know, we are going to vote to adopt this and it's like saying, okay, if you don't like it, here it is. That's basically what we're telling our members. So that is my issue here.
So the draft, as we've created it, well, first of all, this is we have gotten feedback, like you said, through the survey, through the stakeholder meetings. Does it represent everyone? No. But we think we got a good representative sampling from both former members, current members, former leaders as well. And then, of course, all of us as board members representing the members. This plan, however, though, is not a static document. We are looking at it as a living, breathing document that we can adjust, that is flexible, that as each board comes in, we can add, subtract from it. And so that is the goal of creating this as a draft that we present, hear feedback, and then adjust. But I think we have what we're seeing here reflects the priorities of the members as we've heard back from them. And we do, as far as the timeline, we do need to give staff these next 2 months enough time to come up with, well, how are we going to implement it? Then we want to work on translating it so that we can provide it in English and Spanish. And then, like I said, the membership meeting is so that we can hear that feedback, so we can walk through these priorities and goals and hear that feedback, and then work together as an organization to implement it, to adjust it. Because we live in a environment, a journalism industry that's constantly changing, and we do have to be flexible. So it's not meant to be a static document.
No, and McNally, once the staff provides their input on how they see that we're going to implement it, and that's why we're trying to do this sooner rather than later, to give us that time so that we can share the document with our membership. We want to give them at least.
That's my concern about sharing enough, because we have a membership that is not very active. The open rates of our newsletter is abysmal, and it's like people are not connected. And the more we try here, I know with one of the task force that I co-chair, we try to get people involved, but the reality is that the vast majority of our members are not involved, and that's an area that we need to work on, to getting people involved.
Yes,
so
as you well know, it's one of the things that we bring up in the strategic plan, that we have to figure out ways to get our membership more involved and responsive. I actually don't think we have that bad of an open rate, but yes, not enough. It should be.
we have a bad rate. We have a bad rate, and we have a bad website too that we need to take care of.
And David's already addressing now.
Yeah, and maybe BA can, do you have the response rates on the emails?
I actually do. I'm not sure where that sentiment is coming from. We average between a 40 and 50% open rate, which is way above industry standard. We have worked very tirelessly over the past years to cater to and lean into the trending open rate. So I'm not sure where that sentiment is coming from. Our click-through rate is 1 to 2%, which is on par with industry standard, but our open rate is absolutely phenomenal.
That's not what I heard you guys talking about before. I'm confused now.
Arelis?
Just want to make, for the benefit of everyone here, make clear that again, as Yvette pointed out, this is not a static document. This is a living document. We are in the draft portion. There also is going to be a deliberate communication strategy to address what you've aptly pointed out, McNally, that the idea being that the more we spread, forgive the reference, but the gospel of the strategic plan, that the more that we build out that knowledge base and familiarity with the concepts therein. And for the general public, you will have access to the document. It's just not finished yet. It's not.
You will have access to it. We plan to give you enough time to be able to review it, that when you come to the membership meeting, you'll have reviewed it already, and you'll be able to ask questions of us. And again, we cannot reiterate enough that this isn't like, oh, this is it. We're not going to take anybody else's thoughts or ideas into consideration. Not at all. So our timeline is that we want to get it to you guys at least a couple of weeks out ahead, if not sooner, ahead of our conference, so that you'll be able to find it on our website, and you'll be able to review it. And if you don't even have to wait till the membership meeting. You can, email us directly. And we will, we're happy to talk and discuss and, if appropriate, incorporate any new ideas that we get from our members.
This plan is like, it's guidelines. It's plotting the course of where we're going to take the ship over the next 5 years. That never means that we can't adjust course
Right.
to something better in the middle.
Yeah, and I just want to reiterate, because we've had some members just join, that this is the reason we're voting on this now is because we need to come up with an implementation plan. And that's something that David, our new executive director, and the staff are going to work on, and we want to make sure that we give them enough time to do this. So, which is why we're taking the vote to approve the draft. They will finalize that, the implementation plan, we'll add that, and then we'll have a final draft to share with the members.
Is there further discussion? I have a motion on the floor. Okay, well, if there's no further discussion, Yvette, can you just repeat the motion one more time because I didn't catch it all? We are voting on.
So I'll make a motion to approve the 2022 draft strategic plan for NAHJ so that the staff can create an implementation plan to incorporate and finalize the draft.
And Julio Cesar seconded.
I
If there's
second it,
no,
yes.
if there's no further discussion, let's go ahead and do a roll call vote. Where is
Nanette.
Okay, taking roll. Arelis,
Yes.
Arelis Hernandez,
I vote yes.
Yvette,
Yes,
Nora Lopez,
I vote yes.
Julio Cesar.
Aye.
See,
Yeah.
Johnny Cordoba,
Yes.
Blanca Rios,
The big yes for me.
McNally.
Yes.
¿Y quién más me falta? Aquí, Melissa,
Melissa Makaya,
Maya,
did we lose Melissa?
she's there, but she's muted.
Melissa, can you unmute and vote?
So we don't have a quorum.
I know, she needs to
And
vote.
She can vote via
Yeah.
chat if she needs to.
Can she cast her vote via chat?
Yeah,
She cannot hear us.
she's,
I'm calling her. Or not. I don't seem to have Melissa's number. I thought I did.
I got it. I work.
in the meantime, do I need to call my name? No?
Yes.
Yes, I'm a yes.
She didn't answer. I'm gonna text her.
All right.
Is it possible to move on and come back to that or no?
We
No.
can table it and bring it up again for a vote
It's that one last
when Melissa
hanging vote.
rejoins.
We're gonna table this in the middle of
Yeah.
the.
Well, I mean, unless we want dead silence. Oh, here, yes.
there
I'm
she
here.
is.
She is.
Melissa Makaya is a yes via chat. Right?
All right.
That was a yes, she's here.
Oh,
And she says, but I'm here and voting for the plan. So Melissa Makaya
There we go.
votes via chat. And the motion carries unanimously. Wonderful. I'm very, very happy. We can move this on to the next stage and get it done. Thank you, everyone. Now we'll hear from Julio Cesar, who wanted to present a proposal to the board. Go ahead, Julio.
Give me 5. Okay. Hi there, everyone. So I've been a project that I had started to work on when we first got elected, but then got sidetracked with administrative duties, was the Freelance Map Project. I'm gonna start this off. I want to see if I can do screen share from my iPad. Switch camera. No, I don't want to switch camera. Share content. There we go. Screen broadcast, start broadcast. Microphone on. Okay, is this working? Is this working? Can you guys see this?
Yes, we can see it.
Yes.
Okay, cool. I've never done this on an iPad, and I did not bring a computer on my trip. So something I've been working on, or rather started working on then restarted in the past couple of weeks, was I call it the Freelance Map Project. And what it is essentially freelancer and news desk marketplace administered by the NAHJ, where we can best connect freelancers across the country for sure. I want to speak to the attorney who's going to help us with this and ask if we can do it for places outside of the US. And just give news desks a way to easily find freelancers, do it quickly, and reach out to them. There are several systems in place to do this now on the visual side. It's my understanding that there's not really such a marketplace for text writers, but it is something that exists on the visual side. However, as someone who has been on both sides of that, both as a part-time freelancer in El Paso and now trying to find freelancers working for Reuters, it's projects that have some of their shortcomings. So I'm gonna run through the presentation. If anyone has any questions throughout, please feel free to ask them. Keep in mind, I can't see hands raised, so just chime in whenever there's a natural pause. After the presentation, there will be it will be open for discussion in general. But if you have specific questions about something, please feel free to chime in. So the Freelance Map Project would be an NAHJ initiative. I'm presenting it today, May 21st. The summary in general: provide service to the NAHJ members to get them hired as freelancers. At the same time, providing service to newsrooms to let them hire freelancers. The key here is to have things happen quickly. Now, the total first year cost to the NAHJ would be $11,000, which David, our executive director, has confirmed can be covered out of the general fund. A minimum viable product, which would be a version that we can launch, but could be improved, could be ready within 3 weeks, depending on some timing with, from what I've talked to the developer. We could be beta testing throughout the summer. The plan in general right now is to populate this map with NAHJ members, David had the idea of invite some of our larger sponsors to be the beta testers on the news desk side throughout the summer. That way, by the time the conference comes, we could do a full launch. That does depend on the timeline I'm going to present later. But for now, let's just run through what the project itself is. So what's the idea? An easily accessible map showing freelancers available for hire across the country. This is just an image I pulled from Google Maps. This is generally what it would look like, except they would probably all be the same color. And it would be, every pin would represent a reporter who is available to do some freelancing, either for text, for video, for photos, or maybe even if the person is drone certified. Now, I know this is mucho texto, but it's the best way I found to be able to explain the idea. So feel free to read ahead, but I'm going to read it out loud just in case. So what our service would be like. Reporter Maria Sanchez in Louisville, Kentucky decided she wants to do some freelancing on the side, the same way that I used to do when I was a reporter at KVIA. She opens up freelancemap.com, not the URL we're going to use, and creates an account. She fills out the reporter form, says she's a reporter says she's a reporter on the form, explains she's a TV reporter who can write and shoot her own video, and she is drone certified. She adds links to her existing website or her YouTube reel containing examples of her work and includes her contact information. She places a pin in the city of Louisville and her profile card is saved, linked to that pin. She then just carries on with her life. A few months later, a tornado strikes Indiana. And Demery, a producer at a national cable news channel, needs someone to get to the disaster site and film as fast as possible. Demery logs onto freelancemap.com, zooms in on Jasper, Indiana to see who's nearby. There's no pins in Jasper or Evansville, but he sees that the closest pin is Louisville, Kentucky, 90 minutes away. So Demery clicks on the pin. Maria's card pops up. He clicks on her portfolio. He sees her work. He likes it. And he decides that she's well qualified for the assignment. So he clicks a different thing to expand her contact information, which will only be visible to people who create an account. He emails her directly from his email, or if she decides to provide a phone number, he can call her. Now Maria and Demery are in contact and they work together to cover the tornado. After the assignment, Maria can add a second layer to her card where she links the work that she did for Demery. And Demery has the option to leave an objective review that future editors and producers can see it and decide if they want to work with Maria. So that's the general idea of what our project would be like. Excuse me. What are some of the current drawbacks of systems like Story Hunter and Stringer, which are some of the systems that we use on the visual side? Platforms limit direct contact between parties. You have to message the reporter through the platform. You can't talk to them directly. This means if the reporter isn't checking the platform, they're simply not going to see your message in time. A lot of these things are limited to some geographic boundaries. For example, if you want to cover something in Spaceport America, New Mexico, it might only look for reporters within New Mexico. There might not be anyone in Las Cruces, and Albuquerque is honestly just way too far away. But the system won't always show you reporters in El Paso, for example, which is very close to the spaceports and has a lot more reporters than Las Cruces. Now, these platforms, since they process the payments, they all take a cut of the pay. That means that it's more expensive for the desks. It eats up part of their budget, which means that the reporter might be losing out on some money. The platforms also only serve one medium at a time. McNally mentioned, in a message when I had sent out the JIT plan in general to the whole board, that there's not really a system like this for text writers. At the same time, the systems that do exist, they're only for photography or they're only for video, only one at a time. There's also not always a way to check the work quality before hiring. At least this is one of the issues that we've. So how would we solve the issues? In terms of contact, if the reporter has their contact information straight on there, the desk can email them or call them directly. And I mean, I check my normal email, I check my normal phone calls way more often than I do some random platform that I signed up for a while ago. Visual plotting would bypass distance searches and state lines because you could just visually see who is the closest person to the story that I need to be covered, be it a natural disaster, or maybe a midterm election, since the midterms are coming up, you can just see who's the closest person who can drive there. We would not be handling payments for multiple reasons. But one of the benefits that this brings to the freelancers is, since the desks don't have to pay a middleman, then the freelancer might be able to charge more and have it covered under the same budget that the news desk already had. We would also be plotting multimedia freelancers. We would have writers, we would have photographers, we would have videographers. And A, it would give writers a marketplace that they don't currently have. And B, it would be a place to find different visual people without having the desk log into like 3 different or 4 different platforms. So that's how we would solve the issues, that are faced with the current drawbacks. The bit about no way to check the work quality before hiring, it's going to be mandatory to put in at least one link with some work samples. So how does all of this actually benefit the NAHJ? So the platform would be populated with NAHJ freelancers before the launch. This is what I mentioned. We have a lot of freelancers who have worked with Palabra to begin with. And Yaneth was great enough to find me a list of freelancers that have been connected with NAHJ. The total number of freelancers that have been at some point connected with NAHJ is 693. Of those, 426 are members, 267 are not members. That's at the very least, 426 members who might benefit. Now, these might be people who only identify as freelancers, but the plan with this is to also allow people who might not be primarily freelancers to also do it on the side, maybe on some days off, or if they're night side, they could do it during, something in the morning, something like that. And we could become a reliable place to find good freelancer work. For our members, with the midterms coming up, with climate change happening all over the country and all over the world, this would be a good place for them to list themselves and simply have, if someone wants to do a story about rising sea levels, well, you can just, look at a map and see what the freelancers are on the coastlines and reach out to them, see if they could do a story for you. Now, I would want to have something like an NAHJ initiative button listed somewhere on the front page that would direct desks for them to donate directly to NAHJ to maintain the service. This is a little bit sticky because we would not be charging for this service. That would be one of the things that sets us apart. But while we wouldn't be charging for the service directly because the point is to connect people as fast as possible, that does not mean we're not looking at ways to monetize this. David has several ideas. We might play, none of this is final, but we might place advertising on the website. We might charge desks after the fact, like maybe when a desk is leaving a review that, Maria was a great reporter, she got me everything I needed right on time. We can ask like, hey, great, thanks for leaving this review. Also, can you, throw $50 our way? Now, freelancers would also have a better chance of being hired for full-time jobs when they make connections. This happened to me. This has happened to other friends as well, is the fact that they were freelancing to provide local coverage for larger news agencies, national news agencies. It means that you're already connected. It means that this larger news agency knows the kind of work that you're putting out. So if a job pops up that you would be a good fit for, you already know the hiring managers. They already know your work. That gives you a big boost. Now, what would be the costs associated with this? I mentioned at the start that the cost for the first year would be $11,000. This is how that breaks down. Minimum viable products would cost $3,500 to just develop the system by itself. 1,200 of those would be the actual software development for the minimum viable product. The way I got this figure, I posted the general job description online, being very transparent. This is not a final and approved project. This is just in the cost seeking portion. And I found a software developer who was very well qualified for the job. He has worked with systems related to this, including Google Maps API. His estimate is $1,200 to develop it, plus $250 to purchase part of a license to actually for the system needed to develop this. The web hosting would cost about $100 for the first month. Database, $50 for the first month. Now we would need an attorney to write up the terms of use and the privacy policy. Every website has this when you create an account, for example. It's simply, it's the thing we all agree to without necessarily reading it, but it's very, very important that and we have an attorney who will write this. I originally estimated $1,000 for this, and I still would like to budget that. But there is an attorney who reached out to me and said that he would be interested in doing this pro bono. The reason I still want to budget for it is in case that falls through for any reason, at least the money's there. Also budgeting $900 for something unforeseen. The plan, honestly, is to come in under budget for this project, and it would not be that difficult to come in under budget. So that would be the minimum viable product. That would be just what we develop so that we can start testing it. The full launch would be $2,500. That would be, I'm just guessing it would cost the same as the software development, but it might be cheaper. $1,500 for a front-end developer, someone who, since the software developer is more of a systems engineer who can set the thing up, if we want someone to make it prettier, more attractive, we would have to hire someone different, a graphic designer, someone with user interface development experience to do that. And another $1,000 again for unforeseen, which is why I'm really thinking that will probably come in under budget. The recurring costs for everything would be $5,000 a year. It would, because it's $100 a month for hosting, $50 a month for the database maintenance. Essentially, the website is just building a database of this reporter, placed her pin in this location. This is her information, blah, blah, blah. $200 a month for the Google Maps API. Heads up, if we use less than $200 a month of Google, they just don't charge us. And then there's $10 a year for the domain itself, and $720 a year for software maintenance. That's estimating 3 or 4 hours once every 3 months, just to fix something, tweak something here, stuff like that. So again, the total cost to launch would be $11,000 that I would be asking the board to allocate. $3,500 for the minimum viable product, $2,500 for the full launch upgrade, and $5,000 for the annual maintenance costs. Costs that could come up later. Not part of if things go well and we're all thinking like, hey, we could improve this. We could optimize for iOS and Android. If people want to look at this on their phones, I don't think it's a priority right now, which is why I don't think we need to pay for it, because most of the stuff, the news testers are going to be doing this literally from their desk. The reporter isn't, they really only need it when they're setting it up, so they should be at a computer. That's why I don't think mobile optimization is a priority at this moment. General improvements or updates to the system, any ideas people have, and maybe advertising if we decide that we want to advertise it. Again, these are costs that we might take on later if we choose to. I don't think these are priorities. These would also fall into being covered by some technology grants that David is working on pursuing. So the timeline, if everything goes well, May 21st, board presentation, that's what we're doing right now. If it gets approved, May 23rd to June 6th would be the development of the minimum viable products. June 6th to June 31st, that's when we could be signing up NAHJ reporters. We could do some focus groups. We can do some beta testing. Then, the month before the convention, after we make some tweaks or everything turns out well, we do promotion within NAHJ. The point is to fill it with as many NAHJ freelancers as we can. That way, August 3rd to the 6th at the conference, we can launch it in front of a bunch of news desks and in front of a bunch of freelancers and say, you can go onto this website right now, and there's already 200 freelance reporters across the country waiting for you to reach out to them. And all of those would be NAHJ members. Other people would be able to sign up after launch, but we are starting with all NAHJ members. Total summary, $11,000 for the first year costs to hopefully be approved, develop the minimum viable product 2 to 3 weeks, June and July, run things past beta users and adjust the front end. And all of this, the point of all of this is to get money straight into our members' pockets and to get our members the connections they need to get more good full-time jobs at larger agencies. And that's the presentation. Let me, I'm gonna leave this, I'm gonna leave the summary up while we make the motion and move into discussion, just in case anyone wants me to move back and forth. But if there aren't any questions for now, you know, Nora, I'd like to move to allocate $11,000 to start the development of a freelance marketplace administered by the NAHJ, internally referred to as the Freelance Map Project, and maintain it for the first year.
I have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
This is to open discussion, right?
Yes.
I second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to set aside $11,000 to approve this freelance map. And I really think we need to hear from everybody because I know people have questions. So board members?
I have questions. You know, I just think the timing of this is really bad at a time where I'm the co-chair of programming and I have people who submitted sessions who are freelancers and now they're not going to the conference because we are telling them that we cannot help them to get there. And I think the timing is bad. I'm questioning the timing, by the way, and I think that we need more research on this. And I know you have the numbers for the freelancers, but 425 active members. And by the way, I've been a freelancer many times. This is nothing against freelancers. I just don't want us to be wasting time on something that we don't know if it's gonna work or not. We need more research on this. 425 active members who are freelancers. That's 10% of the membership. The last count of the memberships was 4,081 members. I want to help freelancers. Don't get me wrong here, okay? I just don't think that, voting on this without having the proper research and making sure that this is going to work is not a very savvy thing to do. You know, you don't go and buy lobster when the budget is for chicken.
I understand that. The good thing about this is that it would not eat up time on the staff end. This actually would not be relying on the staff to help run it. I mean, we would need help from David just running things past him. Like, this is going to be the final project request to the software developer. What do you think? But, we're not putting extra duties on Yaneth, Leslie Ann, or Yunuen. And this,
I was talking about. That's not what I was talking about.
Okay. So, I mean, that's
always a concern. That's always a concern because we don't have the staff, first of all, and it always end up being the staff who end up handling this thing. And I go back to the website. Our website is really bad. We need to spend energy and money on that. And I just heard, oh yeah, David's looking at it. Well, until I don't see a new website, we don't have a website, okay? And the click members is awful. That website is also awful, So we're gonna come and spend money on this that we don't know for sure. We don't have any guarantee that this is gonna work. We don't have any research that will back this up. And we're just gonna go and vote for this with this extreme timeline, which I find that very, very questionable, by the way, to launch on the conference, which we are not helping people who are freelancers to attend, who submitted and spent the time to submit sessions. I have people dropping out on me this week, by the way, on that.
Yeah, I understand that, but this would be
Julio
getting money
Cesar,
into our
thank
freelancers'
you,
pockets.
Thank you, McNally, and thank you, Julio Cesar. Can you exit the full screen? Because we have actually Arelis and Sal who have raised their hand.
I can't see.
Okay, thank
We
you
should
for that.
actually go in order so that the conversation
Yeah.
includes everybody, please.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Sal, the discussion is really only for board members. If you want to put something in chat, and we can try to address it. Arelis.
That's a good way to do it.
Hey, Julio Cesar, I'm really excited about this idea. I think it's a great idea, but in respect to what the sentiment that McNally is expressing, I do think that the seed money for this, I think we need a lot more on paper before we commit general fund money to it. What I'd like to see is a more human-centered design framework placed on this. So like, I'd like to see you do the focus groups with freelancers first and get their feedback on what exactly their need, because there are a couple of questions that I have. Like, for instance, how will, I mean, you're saying that it's a secondary priority for mobile optimization. I don't think that's reality reflective where people, how people use technology today. I think mobile optimization needs to be a priority, and that in and of itself is a cost. There are things about, you mentioned getting an attorney for, you know, protecting data. Like, that's a very crucial part of this framework as well. If you're like, if you put sort of a human-centered design on it first, because you're coming at it, and I get it, you just sort of a startup framework, right? Where you're like, here's the idea. I think I can find people, we can work out the details in the process, and then we can push it out. And that works in some instances, but I think because we, in respect, again, to what McNally said, that this is a big chunk of money. And given that we're focused on the convention that's coming out right now, that the timing might not be the great. I'm not saying that it isn't, but it might not be the greatest in terms of priorities, 400 members, the convention money, that I think we should work those questions out first. And maybe you can get together a group of people to, you know, advising, you know, preferably freelancers, so that we can do the human-centered design first and then move into actually hiring someone and working on these things. Like, you know, how does this app help or promote fair invoicing, which is a big problem that freelancers have? Like, what penalties are there for employees who get onto this platform and don't pay? Like, how do we ensure that freelancers are paid through this particular platform, right? What kinds of quality control? You talked about people being able to review. Is this going to be sort of a Lyft thing where they can put 5 stars, and then, you know, the more stars?
No. I want to address that.
I know, but these are all questions.
Wait. I want to address that. Yes, no, I want to address the review portion very specifically, because this is very much not Lyft. This is not, you know, how many stars do you give this person? Well, I mean, I don't know, they were fine, I guess 3. It would be objective questions in which it's, you know, what was suggested to me by one of the desk managers that I spoke to this project about before was, you know, did this person deliver what you needed? You know, in terms of, you know, if you hired a freelancer to do a story about a midterm, did they deliver a good full story that's well developed? Or if what you needed were only notes and quotes or some quick B-roll, did they deliver? So the only question is, did they deliver what you needed? The second question would be, did this person turn things in time for deadline? And the third and final question would be, would you hire this person again? Now, that's
hear
just the
you on
baseline.
those. Forgive me, just for the interest of time. I hear you in theory, those are really objective questions, but they're inherently subjective in the evaluation of that. I mean, because the relationship between a reporter or photojournalist and an editor is in and of itself a subjective relationship as to whether, you know, that delivered. That's it. I really think this is a great idea, and I really want to see it come to fruition. I'm not sure about the timing, and I would very much like it flipped on the head. Rather than a sort of a startup focus, is to do more of a human-centered design focus, where you actually have freelancers who are contributing to the ideation that's taking place right now.
Okay. One of the things would be, at some point with the focus groups, they have to see a product. Now, it could be the minimum viable product, and it doesn't mean that all the money has to be spent. If something is allocated and something is developed, it can be stopped at the initial cost of the development, which is the actual development just being the $3,200. It doesn't mean that we have to go all the way for the entire year. But at some point, the focus group would have to see something, to give feedback on.
Well, not specifically, then let's not talk about a focus group. We talk about it
After the
as a
idea.
committee, right? Like a committee that you could put together of freelancers who could, if you look up, human-centered design and the way that it works is that we figure out what people need first and design around that, rather than this is the idea I have and this, I'm going to put it out there and then mold it as it goes. Both are valid in different situations, but I do think that a human-centered design in this particular instance would be far more cost-effective, given that we are fiscal agents for this organization, and would probably appeal more to our members, honestly.
Okay.
Melissa? Melissa?
Hi, everyone. I am so sorry. I'm literally in a field in Texas. Many apologies. I vote yes for my verbal vote for this. Can you hear me? I hope you're hearing me now. I apologize. So visiting family right now.
Okay, so
We hear you,
Melissa,
but
you
we're
were
not
just
voting yet,
you were
but thank
just
you.
trying to confirm that you did vote yes for the strategic plan. Is that why you were raising your hand?
That is correct. I was voting yes for the strategic plan.
Okay. Well, we went ahead and
Sí,
reported
sí,
your
en
vote.
español también. Sí, sí.
We way past that.
But we
it's good
appreciate that
confirmation,
you
though.
confirmed verbally that you were voting via chat in favor of the strategic plan. Appreciate that, Melissa. Thank you so much. Any further discussion?
There's a couple of comments on the chat. There's one from Sal. He says he's a new freelancer and the initiative interests him. So we know there is actual interest in the whole thing. So his question is, would there be a cost to the membership?
As to the original idea, and
Yes.
rather, actually, no, this is not part of the original. This is a mandatory part of the idea, no matter what. There is no cost to the membership. The requirements to be part of this are, one, that you have an email address, two, that you have some of your work published online so that you can link to it as a reporter on your profile, because your reporter card would require something for us to see. So the requirements are an email address and some of your work being somewhere online, and absolutely no cost for the membership.
Yeah,
That's
one
a
of the
mandatory thing.
one of the human components that I liked, as Arelis was mentioning, is that you talk to somebody on the assignment desk. Because I used to be an assignment desk manager. I used a lot of Stringer, which you also mentioned on your proposal. My question to you is NHJ in any way liable for bringing in these two parties, and if there's something that goes wrong?
Okay, so that would actually be part of the terms of use. Whenever we sign up for our website, we click agree and we never read that. We would make it clear to the freelancers, even if they don't read it when they agree. Part of the legal terms of use that people would agree to when they sign up is that the NHJ would not be liable if there's an error, or if something goes wrong between the desks and the freelancers. What we would be doing, that's one of the reasons that we are not providing invoicing, and that we would not be acting as the middleman when it comes to the money, would be, frankly, we can't be liable for that. Other companies like Stringer, like Story Country, they can afford to do that because that is all that they do. We can't. The point for this would be trading off, like, yeah, we won't do your invoices, but you can hire someone immediately after you talk to them. Now, with that, someone had brought up something similar. Okay. But yeah, no, so we would not be liable for it. If something were to go wrong, you know, we would have to figure out if the NHJ wants to be involved, or if not, I mean, it's just part of the process that sometimes freelancers get burned. I'm sorry, it happens. But yeah, the trade-off is that people can be contacted immediately without having to go through a middleman.
Okay, we're at 2:00 and our meeting was broadcast for ending at 2:00. Julio Cesar, I don't see consensus on this issue. I see consensus that people want to like the idea, but I don't see consensus in terms of are we ready really to vote on setting aside some money for it. I think our members, both on the board and who were in attendance, want us to do a little bit more of our homework before we bring this up. So
yeah, I'm okay with tabling this. Could I address the other questions in the chat real quick? I'm just gonna fire off real quick. Is that okay?
Go ahead.
Okay. Ruben Patiño asked, what's the value for the target freelancer under reasonable good faith circumstances? You know, 200 freelancers, $32. 32 hours, 2,200, that much. This would honestly depend. That would be something that we bring up from the desks at the focus groups, is how often they hire freelancers, and how many times that is something that needs to be turned around on short notice. So that is something that I am taking a screenshot of to include in the notes for later. Where also, Ruben, where is the demand for Hispanic journalist freelancers? I can tell you that as someone who works at Reuters, we frankly don't really care the race of the freelancer. We care that they're doing good work. The point would be, if most of the people on this platform are NHJ members and they are Hispanic, that is how we as the NHJ are serving our members, by providing what the news desks need, which is a place to hire people quickly, to hire good people quickly. If by coincidence, most of those people are Hispanic, not or specifically wanting to hire Hispanic freelancers, just that they want to hire freelancers, we are providing Hispanic ones. Adelis saying she would like to see the cost lowered for committing general fund money. The way that we can do that is by having, if we secure the technology grant first, the costs would not necessarily be lowered. I don't see how they can be lowered. The cost could be covered by something else. Magnelli, did I survey freelancers about this idea? I did not send an email out to NHJ freelancers. Rather, I did individual reaching out to 2 reporters that I know who are freelancers and asking them, what do you think of this? Nanette is asking, aren't there companies that do this already?
Very small sample. You know, as a statistician, that is
Magnelli, I understand.
2 people with 425 active freelancers.
Magnelli, it was not
a
2
very
people.
small sample.
Magnelli, it was not 2 people. Nanette's question is, aren't there companies who already do this? The answer is yes. The answer is also they do it pretty badly. I can tell you that every time I have used Stringer, I get video that I literally can't use. Like, I would not be able to put it on there because it's that bad. What about background checks? That's a good question that I will jot down. That at least would be happy to put together. Ruben correctly correcting me.
Julio Cesar,
not a race.
we do have a motion on the floor, so I think you either need to withdraw that motion or you need to amend it to table it so that we can officially end this discussion.
Yeah. The same way that you bring it up for a vote, you can declare it tabled for future discussion.
All right, this matter has been tabled. In the interest of giving our members an opportunity to address us, I'll set aside a little bit more time if any of our members want to go ahead and speak up at this point. I can call on you.
Everybody left?
Bueno.
Bueno.
No, there's
We have-
Ruben
that's
Patiño
okay.
is
There
still
were more
here. and-
people. They're
and
gone.
Lenore. Then motion to adjourn.
You can just declare it.
Let's adjourn then. All those in favor, let's do it. Aye.
Bye, everyone.
Aye.
Bye.